All right, welcome everyone. This class on Pirke Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers. Again, want to welcome everyone. Class on Pirke Avos, Ethics of Our Fathers, holding by chapter 2, Mishna 13, part 13. That's where we are. That's where we're holding. Again, we're holding by Ethics of Our Fathers, Pirke Avos, as it's known. We are in chapter 2, Mishna 13. I think it's part 13. And we're probably going to part 14, 15, continue our way through this. And we're speaking about, go out and discern what the proper way which a person should cling. And we said before that Rabbi Eliezer says a good eye. Rabbi Yeshua says a good friend. We've spoken about them, spoken about that. And Rabbi Yossi says a good neighbor. So that's pretty much where we're holding. Talking about a good neighbor over here. So Rabbeinu Yonah explains that when a person moves, to an area wherever they're going to live. So you want to pick a place, a house, an apartment, whatever it is. You want to pick a place to live, obviously, has to meet your requirements, what you're looking for, and all that. But you want to make sure that also you got good neighbors, right? Especially if you live in an apartment building, right? That's one of the main things. One of the main things you want to check, obviously, place where you're going to live is pretty crucial. What it has, meet your standards, other things. But one thing you want to check is it's the neighbors. You gotta, find out what the neighbors, are like. Why? Because neighbors are around. Neighbors definitely around, on a regular basis. So, you want to see or find out, to help out others, etc. If you're living in a place, where obviously you're going to have neighbors, so it's good to know. It's good to know what the neighbors are like. So someone will say, well, if I ask questions, is it going to be Lashon Hara? Aren't people going to speak badly? So you have to see, you're allowed to check it out. You're allowed to find out, what's going on, in a certain way. So therefore, you move into a place, you want to know who's around you. And now why is it so crucial? So finding a place that's suitable, meet your requirements, how many rooms, what it has, all this, what a person's looking for, that's important, right? No question. That's important. But at the same time, you can find the right place, that meets all your requirements, right? But guess what? The problem is with the neighbors. You find the right place, but neighbors, not the best people. So finding a place, the neighbors aren't the best people is a problem. You don't want a person has kids, you don't want to have bad influence. And if just, it's maybe hard to deal with some people, let's say. It's, this is a pretty crucial thing. This is a pretty crucial thing that you want to know, who you're living with. Because people are around. People are around. So if a person, needs help, other things, whatever, it's good to check out people around. Live nearby, live in the same building, whatever it is. Now, so this is what Rabbeinu Yonah says. right? The Rabbeinu Yonah says you got to check out the neighbors. Check out the neighborhood, see what it's like, right? See what it's like, so to speak. So at the same time, even though that you have to do that, Rabbeinu Yonah says. So Rabbeinu Yonah then says, I don't like this explanation. Right? Why not? Why does he disagree? Right? Why does he disagree with this explanation? So he seems to disagree over here. Why? Because he says, what did we say before? Rabbi Elazar said a good eye. That's something the person should cling to. Rabbi Yeshua says a good friend. Rabbi Yonah says a good eye and a good heart, right, are things that are within a person. Right? That's within a person. A good friend and a neighbor, right, are things come from others. It's something you're not in charge of. Right? They don't come from themselves, so to speak. So different ways to look at this Mishnah. In other words, very interesting. Rabbi Elazar says a good eye. Rabbi Yeshua says a good friend. Okay. Right? That's tremendous. Right? If that's true, those come from within. Right? And certain character traits the person has, that's who they are. Doesn't mean they can't change. Right? Doesn't mean they can't be better people, etc. But you see what you get. Right? You see what people are. Right? Sometimes you might misjudge who they are, but eventually you get to see the whole picture. You get to see the whole picture of who people are. Now, a good neighbor, you're going to say, well, they're people, right? They're certainly people. So even if they're certainly people, you're going to tell me, okay, so you got to check them out. You got to see they people I can get along with. What do they represent? What direction they going? Different things. But again, that is something I'm not in control of. That is something that's outside of me. A person, if you're looking at a good eye, so to speak, that's something from within. A good heart, right, is something within a person. But a good friend, a good neighbor, totally different. That you don't have control, right? Who they, a good friend, so to speak, you say, well, I can choose people who I want to speak to, who I want to be friendly with. I mean, unless the person's totally introverted, which wouldn't be good because, we are social creatures. We definitely need companionship, no question. But at the same time, when it comes to a good neighbor, is that in our control? Not in our control. I would think a good friend, maybe, it's also not in our control, right? I may think maybe it should be in our control. But if a person's friends with someone, let's say, that can go sour. That can go, as people would say, go sideways. Why? Something can happen. Something could be major, something could be minor. You don't necessarily know, how people are going to react, in general. Someone can turn on a person at the drop of a hat also. Person does something, doesn't have to be so egregious, so terrible. Person's in a bad mood, and what happened? Boom, explodes. Right? In a normal circumstance, that shouldn't have happened. Or it could be, person been friends for years, they do something, and friendship goes down. For whatever reason. Good friends are hard to come by. Good friends we've spoken about. They'll stick with you or stick by you when things are good, when things are bad. But good friends are hard to find. Friends you can confide in. Friends that can help you, in different ways when you need them. But what can happen? We've spoken about this before. What can happen? You need a good friend. You're relying on somebody, and guess what? They let you down. They let you down. So then a person has to decide, what are you going to do now? You needed them. You relied on them. They let you down. So life, as we know, is not a bowl of cherries. Life, we understand, is difficult. Go through all kinds of difficulties. Disappointments. All that's true. We have all kinds of disappointments. But see, the problem that when it gets worse is that this person you've known for however long, you're relying on them. You're down, the chips are down. You come to them and they let you down. So I grew up with this idea. It's sort of been ingrained in my head. I'm not saying it's good. And that is, people will say, don't expect anything from people. And whatever you get is a bonus. Now, that's a pretty depressing way to look at the world. I understand, we mentioned before, it's a defense mechanism. In other words, I shouldn't expect very much because it's going to stop me from getting hurt. That's what it's going to do. It's going to ease the pain. Because here I didn't expect anything. Totally didn't expect anything. Because if you have too high expectations and then you get let down, now the question is, how do you see it? How do you view it? You have somebody, again, mentioned this actually last week, that, someone could help you. Whatever it is, they could help you. And for whatever reason, could be selfish reasons also, it doesn't matter. But for whatever reason, they can say, you know what, I'm not helping you. And in your eyes, and you may be totally justified, they have no excuse. They have no excuse not to help you. They don't want to. They don't want to. Okay, now the question is, how do I see it? How is it viewed? So a person's in dire straits. You're calling in some chips over here. Say, listen, need help with this, help with that. And they could help you. It could be in any myriad of ways. And they say, no, I can't do it. Our question is, do you have an obligation to judge them favorably? Such a case. All right. If it's if it's something they did wrong, let's say, and that person doesn't keep Torah and mitzvahs, no obligation. No obligation whatsoever to judge them favorably. Why? Because they don't keep Torah and mitzvahs. Totally don't keep Torah and mitzvahs. All right? So, I don't have an obligation. Totally don't have an obligation. Now, if it's something that does, someone that does keep Torah and mitzvahs, they're caught in, let's say, a precarious situation, I should, to the best of my ability, judge them favorably, even if it looks really bad, because they're holding my Torah mitzvahs. Now, let's say, for argument's sake, person you're dealing with, not holding by Torah mitzvahs, not by a Jew, not by a non-Jew. So, deep down, I get a little bit dicey here, but let's say deep down they can help you. And they don't want to. It's not in their mindsets to help a person. In this case, it's not in their mindset. Now, how do we view it? How do we view it over here? According to the Torah. You've been let down, total disappointment. So we could say what we said before. Don't expect anything from people. And whatever you get, it's a bonus. Yeah, it's a little bit depressing to think that way. It's a very cynical way of looking at the world. Because I understand a person's been burnt. Person totally got burnt, and let down. I get it. It makes sense. But even so, and I'm sure this has happened probably to all of us. We needed something, we needed help, whatever it was. You go to a certain person, they could help you. I say, but they don't even say it in a nasty way. I say, no, I can't help you. I won't help you. Whatever, they're not going to happen. So now, how do you view it according to the Torah? According to the Torah, you can say, come on. They could be the messenger over here. They could be the messenger to help. Right? They choose not to. Now, you could be disappointed because you really needed their help. But then we're not going to sugarcoat it over here. We're not going to say, hey, you could help, you just don't want to. Yeah, you could argue with them. Maybe you'll convince them, maybe you won't convince them. Right? You could have a case where the person doesn't lose anything, you benefit, and they don't lose. They still don't want to do it. Aggravating. Tremendously aggravating. But they don't want to help. Right? So I was thinking earlier, of a certain thing. Even if X happens, how are you going to view it without hating the person? Without despising the person? So you can say, not so easy. But you know what? God runs the world. People can be messengers for others, for good or for bad. God can use people as a messenger for, to cause person damage. Right? They're guilty, but God's using them to get to you. Usually, God will do something around the person to get them, wake them up, to repent. That doesn't happen. God may hit them in the pocket. May hit them, financial loss. If that doesn't work to wake a person up, what can God do? Hit a person in the body. Make a person sick. Right? Now, why doesn't God do that first? Right? Why doesn't God do that first? Who says he has to? They won't have to do that. That's a lot. That is that's the last option, so to speak. So if that's the last option, God's going to do something around you that hopefully will wake you up, and God doesn't have to do anything else. Okay? We'll take that. That's easier. But if not, God can say, okay, you didn't get the message. I'll let this happen. I'll let the other thing happen. Right? I'll let you get messed up in certain things. Then hopefully that'll wake you up. And if that option doesn't work, God's okay, you leave me no choice. What does God have to do? He has to hit you in the body. Is that what God wants? No. It's not what he wants. Now we've been disappointed. Right? Now we're aggravated. You were relying on them. So you say, okay. What's the Torah outlook? How do we view it? The outlook is, you're right, this person could help. Let's say. They choose not to for whatever reason. Doesn't matter. They choose not to. Right? And in that position, you suffer in different ways. So what's Torah outlook? Torah outlook is this person's a messenger. So this is the wrong messenger. They're not going to be the one to help. They lost the merits. Now, for certain people, that could be their own hobble. That could be their portion of the next world. They help out in certain things. Could be. But they choose not to. So you're aggravated. You're down. You needed them. They don't come through. We said before. How do you look at it without hating them? Because they could help. They don't want to. Not in their mindset. Can't change their mindset. Right now, their mindset's not changing. Okay? Mindset not changing. So what do? So the Torah outlook is, they don't have a schos. They don't have a merit. They don't have a merit over here to help. Okay? That can be pretty hard. Depending on what a person's going through. Okay? But the Torah outlook is they're not the right messenger here. There are other things you have to go through. Right? God is saying over here, no, I don't want you to get helped in this way. I want to squeeze you some more, maybe. But we have to see the bigger picture, as we always say. And what's the bigger picture? The bigger picture is these people are not the right people to help. You put your best foot forward. You got rejected. It stung, let's say, a little bit, unless you really weren't expecting them to help, but you put your best foot forward anyway. Right? So we see it in the fact that God said no, that these are not the right messengers. Now, could be, other messengers will come, or other things will happen. We believe very strongly Yeshua's Hashem K'Harafayim. Salvation of God can come at the blink of an eyelash. Can come overnight. Totally not expected. Seen this many times. Heard many stories. Person puts the best foot forward in one way, get totally rejected, nothing happens, and something comes through in a totally different way you never expected. Totally never expected. So we have to flex what we call our emunah muscles. We have to realize God's the one who runs the world. He's the one in charge. And even though I put my best foot forward, it doesn't matter. Putting my best foot forward, I have to do, we always say. Is that a guarantee that this person's going to get helped over here? No. No guarantee. God can say, he can say yes. God can say no. God can say, I'll think about it. Let's see what happens over time. All right, any one of these three situations. The thing is, how do we look at it? How do we view it and stay sane? The Mary we brought down, a person makes the mistake, and they say, let's see if I get an exact, quote over here. People make a mistake, and think when they pray, and they pray for certain things, they pray for certain things, they deserve to be answered in a positive way. But what happens, the person prays, and they pray for the same thing over and over again. They don't get answered. Right? What happens? What happens? Over here. The person can think, you're right, God said no. But what about repeating it over and over? Should that person stop praying for certain things when it doesn't seem like they're getting an answer? Or let's say better, that the answer is no. Right? Let's say. Right? So the answer is that no. You continue to pray. You continue to pray even if you haven't got an answer. Right? We don't despair, so to speak. We should never despair. When a person despairs, what does it do? It depresses them. Right? Totally depresses them. And then they feel they can't do very much. So a person, should continue to pray for the same thing. Or at least, I would say, get some closure. In other words, there are a lot of things that are in doubt. A number of things in doubt. So if there are things in doubt, what should a person pray for? They can pray for what they need, 100%. They can pray for what they need. and God can say no, let's say. They can continue to pray for that, even if they think it's good for them. But at the same time, they should pray in general that, yeah, God, you're the source of salvation. You can do anything. You do what you need to do. In other words, you run things the way you need to, but I need closure. I need some level of closure. There's nothing worse, as is brought down a number of places. There's nothing worse than being in doubt. Having in doubts makes people nervous. Totally makes them nervous. You don't know what's going to be with this, what's going to be with that, the other thing. You don't know. You want clarity. What's the problem? What's the obvious problem? The obvious problem is we're not always given clarity. We live in a world of Hester b'tok Hester Pani. God's hiddenness within hiddenness. We can go through a number of things, and it may be for a long time. We don't have any closure. We don't have any closure. Or maybe you get closure later, but let's say, in the meantime, you don't have closure. Anything worse than that? I mean, we could think of worse things. Right? The problem is, you're in doubt. 100% you're in doubt. No one wants to be in doubt. We want answers. We live in an instantaneous generation. I want the answer yesterday. I want it the day before. Why do things just keep going on? So what's the answer? I don't know. Right? If I had clear-cut answers, I wouldn't be on this forum, would I? Be world famous. It could be God saying, you know what? I want you to work on Emunah. I want you to work on your Emunah B'tachon, your faith, your belief in me that I run the world, that I'm in charge. The person can say, yeah, but I want an answer. I want an answer. Right? So sometimes the answer is going to be, you want to pray for this, continue to pray. Doesn't mean God's going to give you what you want. Right? Person can't drive themselves nuts either, right? You can't go from one extreme to the other. But at the same time, what does the person have to realize? The person has to realize God's in charge. And we have to realize he knows what's best for me. Right? We'll quote Duties of the Heart over here, which I'm always fond of quoting. So in Duties of the Heart, Chovos HaLevavos says, in the gate of self-accounting, in the third chapter, number 19, still working our way through, right? Or let's say at the end of number 18, there are 30 ways through self-accounting. We've been going through this for a while. And he says like this, the end of number 18, he said, if I ask you in my ignorance for something that is not good for me, or is of no benefit to me. In other words, I'm asking for something that's not good for me. We may think it's good for me, but practically speaking, it's not good for me. So what's the Chovos HaLevavos say? He says your exalted choice is better than my choice. So I leave all my interests to your lasting determination and supernal governance. King David said, peace be upon him, Psalms chapter 131, verses 1 and 2. King David said, God, my heart is not haughty, my eyes are not raised high, do not occupy myself with things too great, mysterious for me. Surely I have stilled and quieted my soul, like a weaned child with its mother, my soul is with me like a weaned child. Right? Psalms chapter 131, verses 1 and 2. What's he saying over here? He's saying, in short, I may pray and ask for things that are bad for me. Okay. And if I do so, you make the right choice. Right? It's your lasting determination. You're the one to make the choice over here. Okay. What's the problem? What's the question over here? You know, the question is, you're going to say, God, you make the choice. I'm still going through hell. I'm still going through difficulty. Let's see, God can take a lot. Even if you pray for the wrong thing and something that's bad for you, what can God come along and do? He can say, no, you don't need that. That's bad for you. I'm going to do what's good for you. What's to your benefit? Even if you think it's bad, it's to your benefit. When am I going to see that? Good question. You may not see it while you're going through it. Or maybe God will throw you a proverbial bone, and God will show you why this is better now and why it happened now. Do we always see it? Depends. Depends. But when a person's in the middle of it, you know, it's hard to see what we call the light at the end of the tunnel. I'm not going to say impossible. It's very hard. Very, very hard. But that's the mantra over here. The mantra is, I may mistakenly may pray for the wrong thing. And even if I do, or a person does, God, your infinite wisdom, you're going to bring it to closure. You're going to decide yay or nay, or leave it up in the air. You know, maybe a person will get closure at some point, maybe not. Right? So you say, so what do you do? Well, some people say you got to go with the flow. Whatever happens, you got to deal with it. True. Got to make decisions based on that. True. Does it mean we get the answer we want? Or we think we should get? No. There can be 150,000 reasons why a person's going through it. You know, and the person may come up with a number and you may be totally wrong. Maybe totally wrong. But at the same time, we said before, we don't want to be in doubt. We don't want to be in limbo. We don't want to be hanging, not knowing what's going to be. You know what? A lot of times we are. It shows we're not in control. We're totally not in control. We understand you put your best foot forward. You try this, try that, you know, and you get slammed left, right, center. Now what? Now what? God's telling you. God's showing you beyond the shadow of a doubt. You are not in control. I don't care what you do. I don't care how much you pray. You're not in control. Not very popular to say. And certainly people don't want to hear that. Why? Throws them into a tizzy. Somebody says, yeah, Tehillim 131, verses 1 and 2. It throws people into a tizzy. People don't want it. People want to know what's going on, why I'm going through this, why that happened, why this happened. Chutzpah. Total chutzpah. Why do I say it's chutzpah? Because it's like a person says, I know God, and I deserve to be told. Right? It's the example we always give. One of the worst sins a person can do. What's one of the worst sins? You'll say, marry a non-Jew. Jew marry a non-Jew. Yeah, that's pretty bad. That's a great Shabbos in public. Yeah, that's pretty bad. You know, the Gemara says in Brachos, the Gemara says that one of the worst sins, I think it's in Brachos, is what we call iyun tefillah. What does iyun tefillah mean? Iyun tefillah means I prayed, you know, a person thinks they prayed unbelievably. You know, they prayed very well. It doesn't have to be according to Kabbalah, but they didn't get distracted. Let's say it's true. Let's say it's true. So a person thinking pretty good of themselves. They prayed well. And God should answer what they asked for. In other words, they deserve God to answer them for exactly what they wanted. Comes on the Gemara and says, so you think you're God himself? Herself, itself, whatever. Right? You think you're like God himself? I did this. You owe me. What do you mean you owe me? God owes you? What does he owe you? Because you prayed once in your life, God should answer your prayers on the spot? Yeah, but, fasted twice a week. I said all to him every day. I burst out in tears. I gave you my heart, my soul. Okay? So now you say I deserve a hoodsie. Right? Anyone who grows, anyone in Boston knows what a hoodsie is. Right? Dixie cup. Ice cream. Chocolate, vanilla. Wooden spoon. Made by hoods. Called a hoodsie. So you say, God, I deserve a hoodsie. I deserve Tootsie Roll. I don't know, they still make Tootsie Rolls. Right? I deserve candy. I deserve this. What do you deserve over here? God gives you life. More important than anything else. Gives you life itself. And you say, look what I'm doing over here. Right? I deserve more. What do you mean you deserve more? So the Mishna before, my father said, hey, you think I learned, a person's haughty, they're conceited. They say, look how much Torah I learned. What does the Mishnah say? Even if you learned a lot of Torah, that's what you're obligated to do. So why do you think you're God's gift to the world? Because you learned a lot. Let's say you did. Okay. Aren't there people who know more than you? Probably. Right? You're not the greatest person in the world, when it comes to learning. Okay, but you have more knowledge than most people. Okay, let's say that's true. So you're going to say, well, I deserve something over here. Says, duties of heart, the Bible says. Why does God give you a reward for what you do? He gives you life, gives you everything. Why does he give you a hoodsie? Why do people think I deserve a hoodsie? You know what the Bible says? The Bible says, you know why God gives you a reward? As a chesed. It's an act of loving kindness. The only reason. If we're commanded as a Jew or a non-Jew to keep whatever we're supposed to keep, doesn't it mean I should get reward? Right? But what's the simple answer? Mishna Pirke Avos says no. Because that's what you're commanded to do. Non-Jews have what they have to do. Jews have what they have to do. Right? So if that's the case, so what do you expect? What does the person expect over here? Why do they expect they deserve this, that, and the other thing? Look at the self-sacrifice. Well, what you've given up. Family, friends. What you given up? It's true. A lot of self-sacrifice. Tremendous amount of self-sacrifice. Does that mean we're going to get everything that we want? Not at all. Doesn't mean that. Totally doesn't mean it. We think we should have it. We think we deserve it. Comes on the Gemara and says, even if you prayed, and you prayed very well, and you say, hey, I deserve this, what's going to happen? This file is going to get open. The evil inclination, Mr. S, whatever you want to call him, is going to say, hey, what's he complain about over here? Why does he think he deserves? And God's going to now open your file and say, yeah, let's check him out. Let's see. Because you prayed once in your life properly, let's say, being generous. Let's say. That means you deserve? What do you deserve over here? You're doing what you're obligated to do. So now you think you're God's gift to the world. But what did we say before? Nobody wants to be in limbo. Being in limbo, very hard. Very, very hard to do. No question about it. Same time, person has to realize the answer, could be no. The answer could be maybe. The answer could be, I'm going to squeeze you some more. It could go on. It's not going to go on, forever. Things eventually going to change. In a certain way. There will be closure at some point. It's just not when we think. It's like money, for example. Person says, I need this amount of money. And 2 months later, that amount of money comes in, or some more, some less, whatever it is. So you say, but I need that money 2 months ago. I needed this before, whatever it is. What's God telling you? I'm going to give it to you when I say you need it. Yeah, you're right. You may need it, but there are other things going on. God says no. There are many times people say things came in they didn't expect. Things happened they didn't expect. Because God wanted you to have it then. Why? Can't answer. Could be 150,000 reasons why. But the money that you got, let's say we use money as an example. The money you got, you say, I needed it 2 months ago. No. That might be true. But you got it when God wanted you to have it. So when you got it, whenever it was, that was the right time. That's the way to look at it. That's when God wanted you to have it. Oh, what about this happened? That happened? Doesn't matter. Totally irrelevant. You get it when God wants you to have it. Does it mean I don't have to put my best foot forward? No. I have to do that. But we have to remember, it's no guarantee. Even though we think we should have some guarantee over here. We deserve. Why don't we deserve? It's a mistake. It's a mistake. God gives us everything we need. Whether we think we need more or not, doesn't matter. We just saw what the Pirke Avos said. We may pray for the wrong things that we think we need. And God, and what's the Pirke Avos say? God will take care of it. He'll knock it off and give you exactly what you need. So the mantra, when a person prays, however many times a person prays during the day, the mantra every day should be, you give me what you think I need. And let me be able to accept it. That's a true prayer. Because here what you're saying is, you're leaving it up to him. I need this, I need that. Okay? God can say, no. I'm going to squeeze you. I'm going to make life more difficult. Okay, why? I want to hear you pray better. I want you to work on character traits. I want whatever God wants. So the mantra is, I want what you want is best for me. I want to do what your ratzon, what your desire is. So you're going to say, I'm not getting an answer over here. Not getting an answer. Or the answer is no. That's the answer. All right, so now the question is, what do you do? Let's say it's something you know is good. You know is good, but you're not getting it. So the answer is, should I keep praying for that? Yes. You don't give up. You never give up. But what does a person crave? Almost more than anything else. They want answers. They don't want to be left in the lurch. They want closure. And you know what? It could take a long time to get closure. It could take a long time. Some people it could take 6 months. Some people it could take shorter. Could take longer for certain things. Me, myself, and I, all three of us. I mentioned this before. Most people know I know how to sleep for 17 years. Got a certain level of closure. 17 years. Very hard to make heads and tails out of it, okay? But God wanted. A lot of things happen above nature, totally above nature. Not in my control. This is what God wanted. You gotta say, well, it's hard. 17 years, right? Not just 17 years. 17 years, certain things in your face every week. Not just it disappeared. And the trial ended every week. It's hard. Not going to say not. Doesn't make me righteous by any stretch. It's a test. It's a huge test. I can tell you, why was my faith intact? Why is it totally intact? Right, in many ways, because I understand the bigger picture. Took me a long time, but I understand the bigger picture. And the bigger picture is, one aspect is the fact that I can give this over because I went through it. Now, I could have given it over even if I didn't go through it, but it's not the same. One thing. Not saying that's the only reason. Could be, many other reasons, as well. But you got to live it. That's the difference. It's not, it's nice to think about. It's nice to intellectualize over it. It's not the same, you don't put it in your heart. In other words, I'm going to listen to what I say over here. Talk is cheap. You got to put it into action. You got to live it. That's what you got to do. No matter how hard it gets. That's what you got to do. Doesn't matter how many times you get hit upside the head. Doesn't matter how many times you get embarrassed. Different things. All that's atonement. You got to realize it's an atonement. You got to acknowledge that's what it is. And that's where suffering's coming from. And that's going to make your life much easier in the next world. We don't want it. We're not interested in it, but that's the reality. You got to live it. Right? So someone asked me last week, a week before, but how do you live it? My answer was, you got to say it over and over and over again. God, you're the one in charge. You have to have positive outlook and say you're the one in control. You're the one who knows the bigger picture. You know what's best for me. Yeah, I do that doesn't help because you're not internalizing the message. You got to, make a list of everything we're thankful for. Look at the list, see how good we really have it. So many things. We say this all the time. Yeah, but this aspect is, you're right. This is difficult. Could be multiple difficulties. That's the test over here. For a lot of people, in generation, before the Messiah comes. During World War II, what did God want over here? He wanted destruction. I mean, not what he wanted, what happens. So for people to come out of the Holocaust, whoever survived, and their emunah, their belief in God, their faith and belief in God was intact, they're the real heroes. A lot of people lost their faith, the ones that survived. Totally lost their faith. We can't judge that. We by no means can judge it. They suffered unbelievably. Unbelievably. That being the case, this generation, what do we see? Just like in many other generations, see an upside down world. See righteous people suffer, evil people have it easy. People get tossed around, this, that, upheavals. Right? But we're not living like it was in Europe. Jews have had it hard everywhere. In Europe, they had no food, for goodness sakes, during the war. People were starving. Previous generations had all kinds of other trials, tribulations, pogroms, other things. Imagine one night, government comes in, people come in and say, okay, that's it, you're out. Take whatever you can on your back, you're out. It's happened many times, over and over. Right? You're going to say, so what's going on? Either exile to different places, just told, take whatever you can, get out. You're not given a choice over here. You take the little that you can, right? Well, what's the test over here? Can't get too comfortable wherever you are. That's the test. Jews sometimes feel too comfortable where they are. Like they own the place. There's one place we do own, that's the land of Israel. That's where all Jews belong. Person can't live there, okay. Doesn't mean we shouldn't have rights. In other places, that's true. But there's a certain thing over here. I've heard a lot of discussion about, Jews moving into certain communities, right? A community where they are so big, so to speak, so they branch out, go further out because, not enough land to build and all that. So what do? They infringe on, secular people's places, trying to buy property, this, that, set up synagogues, schools. They have a right to, right? We can't afford to live where they are, whatever the case is. Can't build. So they have to move to other places. So there are places that are, being developed, to live in schools and all that, but what comes with that? How the non-Jews view it? I'm not saying we don't have a right, but let's look at how non-Jews, view this. I'm not even talking rabid anti-Semites. They don't have to be anti-Semites. You're coming in, they think you're going to take over. Doesn't mean you don't have a right to build synagogues and this and that. Question is how you do it. So there's animosity. Why is there animosity? There's animosity because you have some people that will be knocking on doors, asking people if they want to sell their houses. Because they want to start up their own neighborhood or, they want to start moving into the neighborhood, and going door to door. Or wouldn't it be better to go through a real estate agent? Probably. Things for sale, not for sale, but some people become a little bit aggressive. Because they want to, there are a lot of things they want to do. I get it. Doesn't look good. Doesn't give non-Jews or secular Jews the right to discriminate. That's for sure. Doesn't give them the right, but it doesn't help if you're going in there with a sledgehammer. Like, it's coming to me. We have a big community, growing by leaps and bounds. We need, we need other places to go. Okay. No one says you don't have a right to. I mean, some people may say that, but in general, we have every right to. Okay. So if we have every right to, there's a way to do it. Sledgehammer approach is never good. You may say, well, people are against us for this, that, and the other thing. It could very well be. That doesn't matter. We don't have to add fuel to the fire. You have to do it in a nice way. You don't come in and just like, okay, we want to take over. You're selling and people saying, yeah, I'd offer you this, I'd offer you that. They don't, they didn't say they were selling. So you gotta have derech eretz, proper character traits. As we say, derech eretz kidmul Torah, right? It even comes before learning Torah. You gotta have proper character traits. Does that mean, person can't move in certain communities and try and look for property and that? I'm not saying you can't. That wasn't the question. Question is how you do it. And if you do it in an obnoxious way, like it's coming to you, who says it's coming to you? People will say, well, you don't belong here. That's true. Jews don't belong, outside of Israel. They don't. Should really be in the land of Israel, but you're going to say, can't live there, right? Can't move there. A lot of issues. Fine. Let's say they're legitimate issues. Okay. So it's an anti-Semitic thing to say. True. But deep down, they're right. We shouldn't be there. But we're there. So we have a right, just like everybody else. True. Question is what you do with it. And it's not shocking. It's not shocking how people act. Even if it's supposed to keep Torah mitzvahs. Why do I say that? Because to be an upstanding Jew, you got to think about others. I'm going to speak about this tomorrow in my class on the book of Leviticus, chapter 16. It's going to be 9 o'clock Eastern time, 4 o'clock Israel time. It's going to be here, on my YouTube channel at Beyond Orthodox Conversion Jews. I'm going to speak about that. Right? I'm just going to mention one thing. We have a responsibility, huge responsibility. We got to think about others, even many times before we think about ourselves and before our needs. Now, people are going to say, what are you trying to reinvent the wheel? You're not telling me anything that I don't know. You're right. Never claimed that. We got to think about others. We have an obligation. Someone's going to say, doesn't Talmud say, choice between you and someone else, your life comes first. True? Right? Your life comes first. Same time, we got to look out for others also. We have to do acts of loving kindness. I have to help others. Not just about me or my civil complex, me, myself, and I, all three of us. Got to think about others. Maybe even at your expense. But who says? Right? Who says your life doesn't come first? In general, our lives come first. First come, first serve. Two people looking at a house to buy. Both want it. One person's going to get it. Now, it could be a bidding war, it could be other things. Both want it for maybe the same reason, maybe different reasons. But one person's going to get it. So you do what you can to try and get it. Person needs it, whatever. Like anything else. Got to put my best foot forward over here. But I have to think about others. And sometimes you'll see people go beyond what you even think is possible. I saw a story a long time ago. There was a raise of some sort of raise, whatever it was, and person was in the lead, let's say, for most of it, and then right before it gets to the end, someone not so far behind, the guy trips, or he thought that the raise, whatever it was. So what happened? Person behind him picked him up, helped him, and this person won the race. The original person won the race. Now that's unheard of. That is an unbelievable selfless act. Right? And that's why a competition. Totally selfless. Right? That's why you don't hear stories like that very often. The person fell, something happened, someone behind him who could take over and win. He's going to sit there and help him up and help him win? Unheard of. But there are people that act a selfless way. Now, the question is, in such a case, do you have to? Okay, it's a different issue. It's a different issue. I'm just telling you a story. Right? So that's unbelievable discipline. Because what would the person rather have done? They wouldn't care about the other person. They're also in athletic competition. If they win more endorsements, more this, whatever, it's going to help them. It's not going to help them unless they finish in second. But they end up finishing second because they felt that person deserved to win. Is that the norm? No, not at all. Totally not at all. It's a good story though. Right? It's a feeling good. It's a good feeling story. Let's say. Right? But what am I going to say? I'm going for myself. And I don't think there's anybody that's more selfish than us. A person may feel I deserve this. Especially at the end of a person's life. What do you have? You can't do the same things. Your body starts to give out. What does the person want more than anything else? Honor. That's what people fight for. It's not about money. It's about honor. They think they deserve, they did this, they did that. Many things, petty things. Very petty things. But they may feel. Who am I to say what a person's supposed to feel or not? But what do they have at the end of life? Can't do the same things they did before. And let's say it's not about money. Not making any money, you're retired, this, that, but on. People want to feel good at what they've done in the world. People want to be acknowledged. Doesn't everyone want to be acknowledged? Fame, honor, that's what they want. We're going to see one day, probably on 150, right? About how these things can take a person out of this world, literally. Honor, desire, jealousy. Right? Let's get back to the point here. And that is, we may feel things are coming. They're coming to us. We're going to change our mentality. And our mentality is, whatever happens, the question is, how do I view it from a Torah perspective? And it can be hard. It can be traumatic. It can be many things. Things that, may need, extra help getting over. But in general, it's perspective. When I understand the perspective, so then I got to flex my emunah, my belief and faith in God muscles and put it into action. But how are you going to put it into action when it's really hard? You know how you're going to put it into action? You're going to keep saying it over and over again. My Rebbe said by Corona, God, you're the one in charge. You know what's best for me. I want you to guide. I should have added this. I want you to guide me in the right direction. That's the mantra. We think we need this. We think we need that. And it may be true. That's what we think. But what do the Chos HaLevavos say? We may think we need things that aren't good for us. And God's trying to teach us. It's not good for us. But let's say we don't get the message. Let's say we're a little bit thick in the skull. Let's say. So if that's true, the mantra has to be, God, you know what's best for me. So do what's best for me. I think I need this. God can say no. God can say absolutely not. You know, I got a long text. Someone recently sent me this long text. Whatever, someone didn't verify the details, but if what they're saying is really true, in terms of being persecuted, right? Persecuted for their beliefs. You know, for wanting to be a Jew. You know, especially in a country that doesn't want it. Now, if that's true, they say, you know, if you reach out this one, okay, got a little bit of help here, this, that. You know, but this is a situation. What do? Not much you can do. All right? You can't get out of the situation. You can't really help them. You know who they are anyway. But, you know, if you could, you know, get them out, this, that, okay, maybe. You have to know who they are. But I'm saying, you know, in such a situation, you don't know who they are. You're not going to look into it. You know, there are a lot of other factors involved, let's say. Okay. It's a terrible situation. If it's true. I'm just saying, on the assumption it's true. Right? It's a terrible situation. It's a heart-wrenching situation. You know, assuming the person's not lying and trying to, you know, hit you in the heart. But let's say, you know, let's say even a fraction of it's true. Terrific. So what's the message? What's the message? You know, you say God wants a lot of self-sacrifice. Okay. You know, true. But that, you know, that person may be stuck the rest of their lives. You know, can't get out, can't do things. Okay. Right. So if they can't do what they want to do, so they have to refocus. Maybe it's not what God wants. You know, maybe, you know, trying to say that they want to be a Jew, this and that. No. Just say, okay, you know, I'll keep what God wants from me. I'm not going to be a Christian, not going to be a Muslim. You know, not going to be other things. Okay. Who says everyone's going to convert? Nobody says everyone's going to convert. You know, even if they have this greatest desire. You know, who says? You know, let's say a person in a situation that's, you know, they're going to be totally persecuted over here. So God's going to see that. God's going to understand that. I mean, God put into place over here. Right? So you say, well, isn't that self-sacrifice and God going to help them escape? Maybe, maybe not. You know, maybe not. They still have an obligation to keep whatever God wants from them, even if they're not Jewish. But, you know, it's heart-wrenching. I'm not going to say not. Totally heart-wrenching. Again, if it's true. You know, a fraction of it's true. Right? It's heart-wrenching. So it could be God wants his self-sacrifice, going to help them get out, this, that, and the other thing. Very good. And if not, so why they're being persecuted, I can't answer. Has to do with either what they've done, what their soul's gone through, whatever it is. But someone should be persecuted for wanting to be a Jew? Good luck. You want to be a Jew? Comes at a price. Stories of what's going on, not that I'm, you know, anyone should make a mistake, I'm following it too much. Right? But what's going on in the, you know, in the World Cup, you know, in Qatar. A lot of, you know, Israeli press that are covering this are getting harassed. Unbelievably harassed. You know, people like screaming in their face, Palestine this and Palestine that. And you know, those videos going viral. It's like unbelievable. You imagine, you know, you see these secular journalists. They're like, what do you want from me? I'm just covering the sport. I'm just covering the games. What does it do with politics? Yeah, well, Qatar does not have friendly relations with Israel, certainly at the moment. Maybe one day in the future, who knows, right? But you have people coming out of the woodwork saying all these things, you know, harassing these reporters. Now you can say, well, why should they be there in the first place? Maybe they deserve to be harassed. Okay, it's another issue. I'm not going to go there. But there was like I say, it was a funny incident. It was ironic. It was ironic what happened. There was an Egyptian journalist. He's an Egyptian there, covering it. He was also getting harassed. Why was he getting harassed? Because they thought he was Israeli. Dark-skinned, whatever. And they thought he was Israeli. So they started harassing him. And he's like, I'm not Israeli, I'm Egyptian. Like, what are you harassing me for? Trying to show his credentials, different things. It's like being in the wrong place at the wrong time. Like, what do you want from me? I also hate Israel, so to speak. So why are you harassing me? We're in the same team, so to speak. I found that kind of ironic. I found it kind of funny, actually. This guy's getting harassed, and he's not, he's not Israeli, not even Jewish, not even like Israel, let's say. Right? We do have a cold peace, so to speak, with Egypt, but, they're not lovers of Jews by any stretch. Let's call a spade a spade. Might be a few of them, but most of them, they hate Jews. They hate Israelis. They're not interested. So imagine this person getting persecuted and getting tossed around and made fun of and this and that and getting harassed because they think he's a Jew. Right? You think this guy is going to get the message? Even if he believes they're right, it's just they got the wrong guy. They say, I'm not Israeli. So what are you hawking me for? Right? What are you going on about? Right? The wrong place, the wrong time. Okay? Get a little bit of taste what it means. What it means. God showing him a message. You're not going to get the message, probably. He's just going to say it was the wrong place, the wrong time. Misrepresentation. You're the wrong person. Again, I think it's kind of funny. Let him get what we go through, what Jews go through, what Israelis go through. I don't feel bad. Maybe I should. I don't. But do you think the person's going to get the message? Not going to get the message. He's going to say it's the wrong place, the wrong time. That's what he's going to say. Is he going to say, oh, Jews are this and Israelis are that? No, not going to get that message. He's not even going to think that far. He's going to say, like, God, what are you doing over here? So maybe God's sending him a message. You know what? Jews and Israelis are not so bad. I want you to feel what it's like. What you guys do to them also. That could be the measure for measure. Oh, you think Israelis are this and that and whatever? I can give you taste your own medicine. Direct and a measure for measure. I thought it was kind of funny in a certain way. But at the same time, you got to see the bigger picture. You got to see what's going on over here, and we have to get the message. And the message can be kind of harsh also, but the message is God says I'm in charge. And God says, I want you to believe in me. And I want you to work hard on that because we're living in an upside down world. Totally upside down. Many things, not anything we understand. In general, in our own lives, very, very hard. So, a person has to internalize the message. A person has to understand. You're right. If a person says the mantra 4, 5, 10 times a day, but they don't dig into it, they don't internalize the message, they're only words. The words don't mean anything over here. It doesn't affect them. But see, when you live it and you appreciate and you see what you have, it's not a bowl of cherries over here. Life is no picnic, as we would say here in Israel. It's not a picnic. It's hard. You're right. So what? You're right. It's hard. You have to realize where everything comes from. You have to realize God's the one in charge. And we don't deserve answers. We don't deserve anything. People make this mistake. I have it coming to me. What do you mean you have it coming to me? When do you have it coming to you? Because you prayed once very well in your life? And God owes you? What does he owe you? Gives you life. That's not enough. Can also cause you death if he wants to. Could kill you if he wants to. Keeps you alive for now. Shouldn't we be thankful for that? 1.5 million things to be thankful for, and all we do is complain. But a person will say, what do we say at the beginning? I know there are a bunch of questions here. I'll deal with them in a second, right? But what does the person say at the beginning? I want closure and I want answers. I don't want to be left in doubt. You're right. We don't want that. But you know what? A lot of times that's the case. And we don't know. Eventually, we'll get some level of answers, some level of closure. Even if it's not direct, but after a while, I think we get the message. Totally get the message. And then down the line, other things happen. You totally forget where you went. Someone says not possible. Time has a way. A person may not think it. Time has a way. Of healing things. And a person will say, yeah, it's hard. It's this, it's that. And I went through a long time. Could have been a year, 2 years, 5, whatever it is. All of a sudden, something changes. And then that gets forgotten. Is it going to be left in your heart? Could be. Could be there's still things there left in your heart, but then something else happened, totally forget it. And now it's a different scenario. Now it's a whole different thing. But it's hard to see that. Because you say, I'm still going through it. I still have no closure. You're right. Right? At some point, that's going to change. We don't know when. Right? But someone's going to ask, okay, and this is what we started with. Do you stop praying for that? Well, if God keeps saying no for a long time, maybe that's the answer. Maybe. Maybe. But the mantra is, okay, if it's not meant to be, it's not meant to be. You do what you need to do and let me go on and way. Put it in my heart to let it go, whatever it is, to move on. It can take time. So, again, God's got very broad shoulders here. We can throw all our burdens onto him. And guess what? He can take care of everything, blink of an eyelid. We have to believe it. We have to live it. The main point over here is understanding how it all works. Once you understand how it works, then you got to put in action. You got to say, people think, we're living in an instantaneous generation. But I worked for a couple weeks. I said these mantras over, it didn't do anything for me. So what's the answer to that? What's the simple answer to that? Simple answer is, what do you think? 2 weeks is enough? 2 months is enough? A year and a half is enough? It takes a long time to get the message. Some people will be shorter, some people will be longer. We don't know. Right? We don't know. We have to realize God's the one in charge, so the whole burden on him. And say, okay, you know what's best for me. Work it out. Right? And then they're going to say, give me closure. Give me some level of closure. Tell me this way or that way. But again, it doesn't always work that way. Person can be in doubt for a long time. Could very well be. So that makes us flex these muscles. These emunah muscles, because we want answers and we don't always get answers. It's not that the answer is no, necessarily. That might not be the answer. The answer is, let's wait and see. How long? If I knew the answer, I'd be world famous, right? We don't know. Would I have thought I would get some level of closure in 17 years? 17 years is a long time. That's a third of my life. A little bit more, a little bit less, a little bit less. That's a long time not to have any closure. So they say, well, you feel much better now that you have a certain level of closure in some ways. At least not my face all the time, so that's better. It's certainly better. Right? But you don't know. But you see things around it and what happened and this and that. And, sometimes we connect the dots. We mentioned this many times. Not everyone's able to see that. So, we all have it. Whoever's listening got to me however they got to me. Right? Nothing happens by accident. I mean, if you keep listening, you still want pain, okay. Can't help you with that. Right? But at the same time, everyone's got a story. It's not the same. But everyone's got a story how they got to that point, and it's different. Everyone's different. right? But he connects the dots. You see, maybe there's a pattern, maybe it's not a pattern, right? And then you see, okay, this happened, that happened, got to this point, and now I'm getting to this point, next point, the other thing. Right? If we're able to see it in a certain way, you connect the dots, you see the pieces to the puzzle fit together. But you're going to say, but I have to do this, do that, do the other thing yeah. It's all part of the plan. What's the problem? What's the problem with it being part of the plan? We're not given keys to understand the plan as we're going through it. Maybe in hindsight, maybe. Yeah, there are a bunch of questions here I want to deal with. One of them is person can't afford a conversion question here. Person can't afford to live walk in the synagogue. Can you ride the bus? If non-Jews driving, it's less of a problem. Definitely less of a problem, right? You're talking about on Shabbos, or let's say a festival. It's a non-Jew, not a problem at all, right? At least at the moment, even as a JIT, even as a Jew in training, not a problem. Why? You're not obligated. Totally not obligated in anything, except for the Noahide laws. So yeah, I would ask, Rabbi of synagogue, do you mind if I come this way, this, that? If it's an Orthodox synagogue, okay. Right? As a Jew, that's going to be different. No, that's great, Shams. In such a way to get to synagogue. Certainly as a woman, she doesn't have an obligation to go to synagogue. Right? Only maybe a few times a year to go to synagogue. I think it's a good thing, but that's great Shabbos to do it. I had someone tell me this years ago. It's kind of funny. Someone eventually became an Orthodox Jew, but they were saying what their obligation is hearing the Torah being read, in synagogue on Shabbos. So, I laughed. I said, reading the Torah is a decree by Ezra. Ezra made a decree. You shouldn't go two days without hearing the Torah, right? So when do we hear the Torah? We hear it Monday. We hear it Thursday. We hear it on Shabbos. Right now, for a woman, does she have an obligation to pray with 10 men? No. Does she have an obligation to hear the Torah being read? No. She doesn't have the same obligation, right? She doesn't have the same obligation. Then why would there be even a question of desecrating Shabbos? Wouldn't be a question. She doesn't have to go. If you're too far, you can't go, right? Even a person being driven by a non-Jew, right? But the point is, I had a Jew tell me this, what their obligation was to go to synagogue. And again, my aunt, I laughed. I was like, you have an obligation at best to pray once a day. Right? Some say twice a day. Fine. Who in the world says, first of all, you have to pray with 10 men? If you want to, very good. Who said you have to? There's no obligation. But now you want to tell me there's an obligation to hear the Torah being read on Shabbos, and you have to be, who says? You read it at home. Certain things you have to be in synagogues. There's certain things you have to hear. Right? But most things not. Even to say, wow, what about, going to synagogue, let's say on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur, who says a woman has to go? If a woman has little kids, she can't go. Doesn't she have to be there? No. She can pray at home. Is it the same? No, it's not. But do you have an obligation? No. No obligation, even on Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. What about hearing the shofar? Someone can come and blow the shofar for you. You don't have to be there. So you don't have to be there. You can hear the shofar anytime during the day. Right? As long as the sun came up, you can hear the shofar being blown. Okay. But say I have a full-blown obligation to go, not at all. Not at all. The guy's a different issue. He's a different issue. Right? So even if he's a Jew in training, they can drive. Forget taking the bus, you can drive. That wouldn't be a problem. If you had a car, you could drive. Right? As a non-Jew. The question is, the rabbi of synagogue wants you to drive or not. Right? That would be the question. Right? So if a person's a Jew, you got to live within striking distance. You got to live within striking distance of the synagogue. That's what you got to do. Person says you can't do it. That's the question. You can't do it. Am I allowed as a Jew to take a bus? No. Are you allowed as a Jew to have a non-Jew drive you? Same thing. No. It's forbidden. As a non-Jew, you don't have any issues. There are no issues. But if it's a woman, it's a lot easier. 10 times easier. While going to synagogue. You don't have an obligation. Certainly during the week, it's a different issue. Right? But certainly on Shabbos, you don't have any obligation. Now, will a rabbinical court obligate a person to live within striking distance? Yeah. They have to be next door? No. They have to be within a few miles? Probably. You have to ask the rabbinical court how close they really have to be. Now, let's say this is a deal breaker. Let's say a person can only afford to buy or rent, even if there isn't any places to rent, and the place is 5 miles away. So that's rabbinical court. Am I allowed to live so far away? Right? So I can't answer that. You have to ask them. But what if the only place you can afford, they don't have places to rent, the only place you can afford is 10 miles away. That's going to be a problem. They could say, well, you got to move closer. Or, you want to keep Shabbos, you have to go to people for Shabbos. In the community. You have to ask the rabbinical court what the case is. What they would allow, or not. I can't answer that. But I would say, having a non-Jew drive you, yeah, that shouldn't be done. 100%. That definitely shouldn't be done. Yeah, somebody asks what character trait is the worst. So the Chovos of Avos, not the Chovos of Avos. Who is it? The ways of the righteous. Ways of the righteous brings down, otherwise known as the Orthodox Tzaddikim, brings down to the gate of God, being conceited. What's the worst character trait? It says being conceited. Someone who's conceited, I'm not saying, they have self-esteem. We're talking about someone who's conceited, thinks they're God's gift to the world, so to speak. But having self-esteem is normal, so to speak. But thinking everything's coming to me, I deserve this because of my stature, okay, that's pretty bad. So he says that's the base of all bad character traits. That's the worst. Right? Because, and even though the Rambam says on any bad thing, you got to take a middle path, right? Don't be, one extreme or the other. He doesn't say that by being conceited. By being conceited, there's no room for a middle path. There's no room for anything. Have self-esteem, yeah, a person should have self-esteem. It's a whole different discussion here, right? But the point is, person is conceited, let's say. The Rambam will not say choose the middle path. Right? That's not an option. Choosing the middle path for other character traits, not this. This, you go to the opposite extreme, never to have anything to do with being conceited. That's the worst. That's the worst. What comes after that, I would say anger. Anger is probably number, I would say is number 2. Even the Rambam and others say, let's say you have to discipline, let's say a child. And even if you have to fake anger, scare them a little bit, you got to be very careful. Because even faking anger, you want to make sure you don't have any anger, any real anger. If a person can fake it, very good. Right? But, anger can be so bad, a person can lose such control. Gemara says that they could be by the opening of the pit of hell and not repent. Because the person's angry, they lose themselves. They totally lose themselves. And that's why Mishna Pirke Avos says, right, as we'll see one day, someone's angry, you don't speak to them while they're angry. You got to let their anger dissipate. You have to let their anger go. Once their anger goes, you can talk to them. Right? But if they're upset, or they're really upset, then you don't try and appease them. You don't speak to them when they're angry. Now, some people will say they can get angry at the drop of a hat. They get angry very easily. Right? So how do you work on anger? Anger also, as we said, I'd probably put up there number 2. Doesn't everyone have anger? Everyone gets angry. Right? Some more, some less. First of all, a person has to know what triggers it. Now, a lot of times we know what makes us angry. Now, the question is, if you know what makes you angry, how are you going to react? So this is part of already the solution. You know this upsets you. Okay, now get to the core of what it is. And then say, okay, this person does this. All right, one of my personal pet peeves, throw it out there, is hygiene. One of the things I can't stand is people blow, whatever, sneeze, this, that, don't cover their face, nothing. Cough in front of you like they don't care. What happened? What, they dropped on their head as a kid? What happened over here? Is that basic hygiene? Yeah. So what do? Your own people that do that. It's annoying. I can tell you. Personal experience. It's annoying. But you know what? You're not going to change people. You can say things, they're not going to change it. All right? So, what Victor Miller said, and try to put this into action. And that is, think of something positive to say about the person. Let's say a person in synagogue, we'll make it a little more graphic. Person comes to synagogue, they're there 3 times a day. A lot of times they're in synagogue, they during prayer, they talk. Not a good thing. Right? Again, a whole nother discussion, but not a good thing. Okay. So how do you look at someone like that? They're, disturbing other people, when they should be praying. You're going to say, this is obvious, you're right. Well, there are people that, walk up and down the aisle. It's another issue. They're just annoying. Let them sit down. Okay, you're going to say they have ADHD, they have other things. They can't sit down, whatever it is. It's annoying because it stops the person from proper concentration. Okay, I'll change it. So what can you do? You can change your seat. Other things. How do you look at a person like that favorably? So someone asks this to Rev. Victor Miller, a blessed memory. And he says, think something positive about the person. Look, the person comes to synagogue. Person's an Orthodox Jew. Person tries hard. They're there consistently. It's a positive thing. You're going to say, but this thing annoys me. Okay. But you see, Rev. Victor Miller holds that the more you try and love the person and find positive things about them, that's not going to bother you as much. I'm not going to say it totally disappears. Not going to go that far. Right? It's going to get much less, though, because you appreciate who they are. In general, forget about what they do. What they do may have an effect, but you know what? At the end of the day, if you look for positive, you'll find positive. It's very easy. We in general, people in general, it's very easy to nitpick against other people and what they do wrong. Of course, we're perfect. We don't do anything wrong, right? We justify everything we do. Well, it's very easy to find faults with others. True. It's much easier to hate someone or get annoyed by someone than love them. Much easier. Why? We don't want to love people so much. Right? We don't think everyone's God's gift to the world, and we don't think positively enough. That's for sure. So it's very easy to find fault in someone else that uplifts you. Yeah, I don't do that. Let's say in this case, if a person sneezes or coughs, you cover your mouth. Right? You cover your nose, whatever it is. You say, well, at least I don't do that. What other people do. Okay. Right? But we're not perfect by any stretch. If it's easy for us to nitpick and find things wrong with other people, isn't it easier for them to find things wrong with us? Very, very easy. And it's much easier to be negative than be positive. Even though being negative, what does that do? It takes away years of your life. Why? Because it's very easy, because you get annoyed. You get angry. A person did this. You can be justified. I'm not saying not. This annoyed you. You have a right to be annoyed, let's say. Why are you going to lose sleep over it? Why are you just going to, blow up? Because it's annoying. Right? There are plenty of people out there have anger issues. Some more, some less. Everybody has them. So first of all, you have to know, what do you get angry about? Second thing is, now you know what you get angry about. In general, how are you going to spin that and not get angry about it? Or not get as angry about it? So you got to think. So one of the things where Victor Miller says, yeah, people do this, that, and the other thing, and it annoys me. Okay. Try and find something positive to love them. But what about other things that even you do to yourself? Person has high expectations, extremely high expectations. If anything doesn't meet those expectations, you get angry. Even if you do it. All the more so if you do it. Person's a perfectionist, let's say. So the person got to cut them some slack. Cut themselves some slack. Because even if a person may be a perfectionist, what happens when you fail? You're just going to beat yourself up and say, oh, you're a piece of garbage, you're this, you're that. I try this and I'm lazy. Okay. We all have bad character traits. I don't say you blow them off. You got to deal with them. We got to deal with them. That person tell me, it's so much easier playing video games, if you're into video games, let's say, than learning Torah. And of course, makes perfect sense. Learning Torah is hard. Working on yourself is hard. Wasting your life and your mind playing video games is easy. You don't have to think. Right? You have to deal with life's difficulties. Much easier than trying to even change one character trait. But at the same time, person's going to realize, okay, you got to deal with it somehow. A person who's a perfectionist or has high expectations for themselves and others, so they're going to be disappointed a lot in life. People get let down. We mentioned this at the beginning, right? So dealing with disappointments in general is something, we have to know how to look at. So they say, don't have high expectations. Okay. Or how to know that people don't always do what they say. People are limited. And let's say a person needed a certain amount of help for something, and a person you depended on gave you a little bit of help. So you can say, but I needed more. Okay. So you can say, I depended on them, they should help me more. Okay, could be. So how do you view it in a less antagonistic, angry way? Say, at least they helped me with that. Okay. I'll take the little they gave me. That's something to be happy about. I'm not saying it solved your problem. It helped a little bit. You expected a certain amount of help, and you didn't get it. There are a million things. I go through a whole list. Not going to say that for other videos. Things we get disappointed in. Things that drive us bananas. They drive us more bananas when we focus on it. But a person, I would tell people, a person wants to work on anger, think about what triggers them, what gets them angry. And then when they understand what gets them angry, figure out how they can diffuse the situation and not get as angry. I'll tell I'll give you a secret. Right? This is a $4 million secret here. You know what the secret is? The secret is God runs the world. God's the one in charge. He put this situation in my life for whatever reason. Maybe just to work on this. So if I know that, things can happen and that God's in charge, okay, there are certain devices a person's going to have to do, certain things a person's going to have to do to not get them angry in that situation. But sometimes, we're sleep deprived, we have other issues, something comes up, we know what the right way to act is. We know exactly what we should do. You know what? We're creatures of bad habit. Person knows it's not the right thing to do. How many times has a person been in the situation saying, I should never have done this? Saying that they should have done this, that, and the other thing, and they had in their minds. They totally had in their minds not to do that. But what happened? They gave in. Didn't work. Totally didn't work. So you got to go to plan B, plan C. Sometimes you have to act it out. See, the hardest part is to know what to do. Because most people don't know what to do. They just react. Knee-jerk reactions. The second hardest part is once you know what to do, it's probably the hardest, I would say, is knowing what to do and then going out and doing it. So a person will say, I know this triggers me. I know this angers me. And I know what my reaction is going to be 99% of the time. Okay. Let's say you know that. Now what? How are you going to deal with it? If you know what the trigger is, you got to either make sure it doesn't get triggered. And if it does, how are you going to react? Now, a lot of times what happens is we're put in that situation. We know this is going to, it's a trigger. And then it happens, we're caught off guard. Caught off guard, other things are going on, distracted. This happens, a million other things at the same time. Overload. Very hard. You gotta have a plan, right? That's our obligation. Gotta have a plan over here. But a person says, I get angry at this, angry. Okay, we all have bad character traits. Some have worse in certain things than others. Okay, so you understand what it is. Very good. Now you got to understand what triggers it. And once you understand what triggers it, then you have to figure out, even if you're triggered and it annoys you, how are you going to look at it in a positive way? How are you going to deal with it in a positive way? Now, it's not so easy. But you have to make some sort of plan. Otherwise, otherwise you're going to get triggered. This is what you're going to do, and you're going to do it 100,000 times, over and over and over again. It's going to be hard. It's going to be, I'm not going to say impossible. It's going to be very hard to fix. Because your whole mentality has to change. You say, don't let it trigger. Oh, so try and do that. Uproot it from the roots. So you don't get triggered by it. You got to say, how do I do that? It depends what it is. Right? Yeah, you're going to have to change the way you think about a lot of things. I have things now, years ago it would have been, I wouldn't say paralyzed, but just would have been extremely difficult to deal with. Today, some of these things just go big, not effective anymore. My mentality changed. Took a while. It's not overnight. That's the other thing. I've been this way for so long or whatever. Yeah, it's kind of depressing. I get it. So what? We're going to change the way we think. Change the way we think. A lot of things don't bother us anymore. It's what we call sweat off a duck's back. Doesn't bother me anymore. That's what I would say. Someone asked, how can you know whether a neighbor's a scam or pretending to be good? Some people do things superficially. Some people are just very superficial. How do you know if they're a scammer or not? You don't. Maybe they just show things on the outside, but on the inside, they're this person, that person, the other person. You're right. You don't know. You really can't know. Right? If you speak to people, let's say you speak to people in the building, you get to know them a little bit, or speak to outsiders and know people, et cetera. You can get a feel for who they are, for some of them anyway. Right? Does that mean someone can't be a scammer or pretending or just being superficial? Doesn't mean that. Could very well be like that. Plenty of people are superficial. Plenty of people have neighbors they don't really speak to. Maybe they'll borrow sugar for them if they need, maybe something else. Well, there are plenty of neighbors probably people don't speak to. It depends on the people. Some people in the building have no connection one to another. Can happen. Certainly can happen. I don't think it's a good thing, but certainly can happen. People are busy building families, whatever. They're, they got their own family, etc. So, okay. They're going to be over friendly, this and that. Some yes, some no. Can you really know? You can't know. I would say it's almost impossible to know. Right? But if you find people that know people in that building, so, you can inquire. But, and even if you inquire, does that mean what you see is what you get? No. Can you give a better answer than that? We don't know. Right? We don't know for sure. Someone asked, which books would you suggest for commentating the books on the prophets? Oh, good question. Art School has very good books. They have individual books on all the prophets. I'm pretty sure they've probably done all the prophets. Good translation, and good commentary. So if you go to artschool.com, they probably have, if you put in the search bar for, I don't know, the prophet Jeremiah, I'm sure a lot of good books will come up, right? But they pretty much finished. I would assume they finished all of Tanakh, with commentary on it. So that's a good place to start. Right. How would someone internalize what they learn, recite it off until it becomes part of it? That's one way. Yeah, you got to think about what the message is, I would say. Think about what the message is they're trying to give over. Try and see how it affects you, how it affects us on a regular basis. Right? Some things are more universal, some things less universal. Right? But Torah speaks to everybody. Right? It speaks to all of us. So if that's true, you gotta delve into what it means, right? And see how it applies, right? One example I've given in the, between Passover and Shavuos, we say there are 48 ways to acquire Torah, the Mishna Pirke Avos says, right? In chapter 6. Right? So many commentaries say during those 49 days, you look at each character trait, think about how it may or may not apply to your life. Right? For half a minute or a minute. And obviously it's something good, try and implement it, into your life. But you got to think about what it means, try and understand what it means, right? And even, I don't know, use illustrations in your mind, learn more about it, so to speak, and then, internalize it, see how it applies. Some things will apply more, and some things will apply less, but everything's going to apply at some level, right? So you got to think about it. How does it apply to me? You got to make it, it's like anything we learn, even if it's very esoteric, we have to look at it as, it has a part in my life. We're not just learning something, and it's just like, what's the word? It's, it's like high in the sky type of idea that, like, we can't relate to, or something like that. We can relate to everything. We're gonna make it practical. We're gonna try and make it as practical as possible. That's what I would say. The more practical you make it, the more relevance it has. Now, some things is hard to make practical, but that's what we should do. And once you make it practical, you can internalize the message, right? You can think about what it means and how it applies and all that. Someone asks if Hashem answers in a positive way, is there a gratitude prayer? Is there a gratitude prayer? I would say in the morning, right? In the morning, we have an obligation to say, serve God with great joy. Right? Persons, when they say that, you think about the goodness he does. Certainly think about it in the Shemona Esrei, right? Silent meditation, whatever you want to call it. A person can think of the good things that God does for us there. But let's say they can, at that point, something happens. What's the prayer they say? They can say, God, I just want to thank you for doing this. It can be a simple prayer, right? I don't think you have to read Psalms, anything, a simple prayer like that, thanking him for the goodness. We should do that every day anyway, even if it's hard, doesn't matter, right? But, and if our prayer got answered, Rav Victor Miller is very big in, person talking to God on a daily basis. Right? I need this, help me with that. Your creation is so unbelievable. People think it's funny. They look at you like you're a fruitcake, so to speak. A person's, thanking God for, for an apple seed. Thank God for apple trees, for rain, because we need rain, right? For snow, the ground needs to be frozen and then come back to life. Heat. Thank God for heat, for all kinds of things. So on a daily basis, we'd be thanking him. But Rav Victor Miller says kind of makes us look silly. People think, this, that, and the other thing. Who cares? Here's what they think. When a person does that, you're living with God. You don't have any worries. You're thanking him for everything you have. You're thankful for life. That's positive. Tremendously positive. Why don't people do it? Because I say it makes me look like a sissy. Makes me look like makes me look, like a fool. So what? Why do you care what it looks like? You're having a direct connection. Direct connection. You're thankful for what he gave you. You can even thank him for a difficulty you have. Acknowledging where it comes from. That also helps. God, I want to thank you for giving me this opportunity. They say, how many times have you said that? Me personally, how many times have I said that in my life? Not too many, but we should say it more. We definitely should say it more. It's a golden opportunity. Work on anger, work on all kinds of things, right? We have to acknowledge where it comes from. So when you say, and you're working on these things, it clears the person's mind. It gives them a certain way of looking at the world, which is positive. It's very easy to look at the world in a negative way. Many, many ways. I don't have to mention them. Everybody knows. You fill in the blank what it is. A million different ways. Right? But at the same time, a person has a positive attitude. People may think we're crazy. How can you be so positive? This happened, that happened. You know why? Because you're able to see the bigger picture. You're able to understand. Okay, it's a test. God says, and a person says, I'm not going to fail this test. I'm going to live your law. I'm going to pass. Might be very hard. It might be easier. Doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. We have to implement what we learn. Right? And sometimes not so easy. Someone says sage is prohibited. Lying is right. It's forbidden. Well, that's the way to bring peace. Yeah. Right. So I'll give an example. Aaron a Cohen. Aaron the priest. How would he make peace with people? Two people are arguing. So we go to one person, go to Reuben and say, listen, Shimon really feels bad, right? Really feels bad about what what he's done. He has total remorse. Told me himself, etc. And Reuben's gonna, feel pretty good, that his friend feels bad, this, that. And then what is Aaron Cohen gonna do? He's gonna go to Shimon. He's gonna go to Shimon and say, listen, Reuben really feels bad. He wants to make up with you and this and that. And when they meet each other, what Aaron told them, even though it wasn't necessarily true, right? I mean, maybe just bringing out dormant things in their heart, what they really should think. Okay, right? But then, they came to love each other. That's how we brought peace, right? So there are certain things, let's say marital harmony, that a person may be allowed to lie to their spouse. Otherwise, it's going to look a lot worse, so to speak. I'm not saying you do it on a regular basis. Shouldn't do it on a regular basis. Right, but person, may be able to lie, for the sake of peace. Now, lying in general, you're right, it's a bad thing. It's forbidden, 100%. But in a case where you can arouse love between one and another, by saying things that are not exactly true, but it arouses them, a love for this other person, that's a good thing. It's a good thing. Again, lying doesn't make it right all the time, right? But certainly, certainly in cases where, you want them to be peaceful and this and that. So we see by Aaron Cohen. That's why everyone loved him, because they're able to make peace. So you say, but, and that's the example it's given. So you say, well, he's not telling the truth. Right? Not really telling the truth, but the reality is, when he says something like that, they really want to be friends. It's just something holding them back. What's holding them back? Anger, pettiness. They could be justified. Maybe they're justified, right? Or maybe it's just evil inclination overcoming them. So what did he do? How do you beat the evil inclination? Also, try and placate and push them off, do other things, right? So here, you're going to say, well, a good thing came out of it. You're right. Should a person lie in general for that? No. Because, it can lead to other lying. So you say, well, it's forbidden. You're right. But in some cases, lying is permitted, not necessarily for peace. I'll give one example. How's Yaakov allowed steal, quote unquote, steal the blessing? He did it in an underhanded manner. Yaakov represents absolute truth. Sometimes you're dealing with evil people. You're allowed to lie to get what you need in spiritual terms. Right? You have to know where, when, you have to know how to implement that. Right? But in general, we say you're right. It's forbidden. It's forbidden. But if it helps out a situation where you don't necessarily tell the truth, but it puts two parties together and helps them, That's not a bad thing. Because if you tell the truth, let's say you did tell the truth, then yeah, it's going to be disaster over here. Someone asks, if a person drives, let's say drives synagogue, you park in the parking lot of the synagogue or park down the street and walk. So yeah, I would say park in the synagogue, let's say on Shabbos, be a problem. I would say, you park a little further away and you walk. Right? I don't think, again, you'd have to ask the Orthodox rabbi what to do. But I would say in general, they're probably not going to want people coming all the time and driving, but, they may have, Jews, driving synagogue also, which is forbidden. Right. So listen, if they say, listen, you can drive, we don't, I don't care. You drive right, right in the parking lot, okay. You'd have to ask the, the rabbi there what to do. Right. Is it better to drive a little further away? Yeah. I would say that, but it doesn't necessarily mean you have to. It could be that, you can park in the parking lot. Wouldn't be an issue. Most people know a person's not Jewish anyway. So, that might not be an issue. Someone asks, how do you tell the difference between normal anger and outbursts from mental illness? Who says mental illness? Everyone has anger. Everyone has anger. Different levels. Some people have more, some people have more anger issues than others. But yeah, anger can cause a lot of problems. Definitely cause a lot of problems. Anger can cause anxiety. Anger could cause what's the word? Not just aggravation. Trying to think of the word. Anger can cause all kinds of things. A person's under pressure. Etc. That doesn't mean, it doesn't mean that person doesn't have anger. That also doesn't mean it's mental illness by any stretch. Right? I'm not going to go through mental illness now, but, everybody has anger. Everybody has it. Some people may have more of it, but it can cause other problems. It can cause other problems, cause relationship problems. Person can just gets angry at the drop of a hat. Someone says something, just blast them. They might deserve it, but let's say, it's not a good thing to do. So it can cause relationship issues. That doesn't mean a person has mental illness by any stretch. And I wouldn't say most people have anger issues. If they do, it's mental illness. I mean, some people may call it that, but I don't think that's what it is. It means, they have to work on it. Can it be destructive? Oh, yeah. Totally destructive. Totally destructive. I mean, it could get a lot worse. How can it get worse? The person can't hold down a job. That's pretty bad. Right? So you say, no, job is different. You do certain things, whatever, and you just blow it off. Oh, yeah, because you want to get paid. You want to get paid. I get it. Right? But you got to get to the root of the problem. That doesn't mean it's mental illness. Right? It just means something, something you got to work on. But it could have a myriad number of effects, negative effects. Just on relationships, how you deal with others. And in that sense, who wants to hang out with someone that, you say something that's going to blast you? Ask the question, would you want to be around someone like that who just blast you for doing something? It doesn't matter if you did something stupid or not. I'm not saying, if a person does something stupid, you want to be blasted for it? No. Let's say you didn't do something stupid, you got blasted anyway. Who would want to hang out with someone like that? I don't think anyone would want to hang out with someone like that. Right? Especially if you know that person just gets angry at the drop of a hat. If you're not careful, they're going to blast you. That's not mental illness. It's a bad character trait. It has to be worked on. Right? It doesn't mean it's mental illness. I don't think it's mental illness by any stretch. Right. Could it lead to other things? Yeah, it could. It certainly could. So you say, well, most psychologists tell you it's better to get it out than have it within so you don't explode. Yeah, it's true. You have to know how to control it. Person may need help having to control it. I don't necessarily think it's mental illness. It could lead to other things. I would, definitely could lead to worse things. But it doesn't necessarily mean, I wouldn't say it's mental illness by any stretch. Someone here mentions so much about JC and saving people, this, that. How much more anger do some Jews get when they evangelize, Israel? Again, you can answer them. You're allowed to answer them. You can say, don't bother. Let's say they harass you. That's what they do. It's what they're good at. They try and convince you. They harass you, So, you could get angry. You could say, stop bothering me, this, that. But again, a person has to know in general, how to view it. Right? In other words, there are people that are annoying. I get it. Especially in this case. Especially that. You don't want to be evangelized. You don't want to say, you're going to fry in hell forever. You got to believe in JC. You say, listen, we can agree, disagree. And that's it. And you have to walk away. Is it annoying? Yeah, it's annoying. But, some people do that. So, right, how much, more angry should, Jews get? It's annoying. I get it. You know what? A lot of things can be diffused. Someone says something, let's say. Somebody says something, and it triggers off you to get angry. So you're going to say, okay, God's testing me in my anger. Okay. Right. But think about it this way. This person who's proclaiming JC is the Messiah and all that, we know he's a fruitcake. Right? We know they don't have a leg to stand on. We know they misrepresent Torah, all these things. Right? So someone's going to say something to us, even though it may get under our skin. Right? Isn't that person insane? Person doesn't know anything about Torah mitzvahs. Don't know anything about Torah mitzvahs. And they're going to proclaim, I know this, I know that, I know the other thing, and you're wrong, and this and that. They say, wow, Torah says different. Commentaries say different, right? So they're going to go on, and they may make fun of you. Someone told me this last week. I told them the story. I think I mentioned this before. Told someone the story how I got locked in the bathroom. Right? Now, so as I was saying, just telling over the story. I said, yeah, it would have been, I wish I could have prayed. I couldn't pray. I was in the bathroom. They're like, oh, is that one of the rules? I said, yeah. That was it. Because I know, a person like this, that's what they're going to say. So my answer is going to be, yeah, it's one of the rules. Am I going to give an explanation? No. I did, actually. I just said, yeah, it's a disgusting place. Even the, there's no excrement there or anything else. It's a disgusting place. You can't pray. That's it. That was it. 2 seconds. 5 seconds. Did I let it get under my skin? Absolutely not. Because I know that's going to come up over and over again. And it has. Is that one of the rules? Yeah. Okay. They asked me why. I gave him a brief explanation. That was it. If it would have been years ago, I would have said other things. You know what? I don't want to get under my skin. I got many more things to worry about. As we said, it's water off a duck's back. It's annoying. You're right. What am I going to let them in my head for? And most things we get angry about are not worth it. Take off years of your life. Could cause anxiety, other things. Not worth it. But you're going to say, how do I diffuse it? Okay. Right? So a person needs anger management. Right? But again, that doesn't mean a person has, mental issues. But even if people say things and they annoy us and this and that, guess what? If they say things, we mentioned this many times by family and friends. People are insane, totally insane. I'm not going to take what they say seriously. They may be very passionate. Okay. So they'll be passionate. You know what the truth is. You know what the answers are. They don't want to hear it. They change the subject, but they don't, they keep harping and then, okay, people are insane. They're insane. I don't have to answer someone who's insane. They're, if they're mentally challenged, I'm going to answer them. What am I going to answer them? I have 25 IQ when it comes to Torah mitzvahs. 25 IQ. I'm going to take what they say seriously? Never. Not when it comes to Torah. Maybe other things. Certainly not when it comes to Torah. Right? So if we look at things as a test, you're right. You have to know what the trigger is. Then you have to know, why does it upset you? And even if it does, and someone did something stupid, this and that, catch yourself. Why does it upset you? And then think of a way how to diffuse it. Right? Again, doesn't mean it's mental issues here. Someone says, yeah, Psalm for gratitude, Psalm 100. Very good. It's okay to say amen after I say a prayer, if you're Sephardic. When a person makes a blessing, we don't answer our own blessing. We don't answer amen. Sephardic people, may answer amen. We don't. Ashkenazim don't. The person says they want to, it depends. Again, if you're Sephardic, you want to. It's one thing. You're Ashkenazic. You don't do it. Someone asked, so what I think when I was in the bathroom, I thought, listen, I got a lot of things I need to do. I need to go pray at some point, right? I need to get up north. I need these things to be taken care of. That's what I thought. That was it. And how am I going to get out without breaking the door? Right? It worked out in the end. It took about an hour, but whatever. It worked itself out. But yeah, those are my thoughts. I had things I needed to do. That wasn't a prayer, right? I wasn't praying. I wasn't saying, God, get me out of this. But I was thinking, I have a certain amount of time before I'm going to miss this. I'm going to miss that and the other thing, and my schedule certain days is very tight. So I said, okay, whatever it's going to be. And I saw the clock is ticking. Right. So that's what I thought. Yeah, God has a sense of humor. I was like, I don't know what he wants here. I said, okay, I need to get out. Somehow I need to go out. I have a certain amount of time. It's a good thing I had much more time. So by the time I got out, gave me like 15 minutes to get ready, get dressed, and be able to go pray. So whatever, it worked itself out. But that's the way they started. It didn't get worse from there. But again, it's all attitude. How I look at it. So after I got out, I was like, I thought to myself, I don't know what you want from me, God, over here, but glad you got me out. Let's see how the rest of the day goes. I went to pray, made the bus on time, made the other bus on time, everything worked out. But they started out like, just okay. Evil inclination wants to throw a wrench in and, get me aggravated, this and that. No, wasn't going to get aggravated here. There's no reason to get aggravated. I mean, there was, but, I didn't let it get that far. Yeah, any other questions? Someone asked, I've been okay because you cannot get out. Yeah, I would have had to wait for someone someone to do it. I mean, there's no problems, no other issues. Just like, I couldn't get out. If I need the bathroom, I was safe. I didn't have a problem with that. So, it was just other things that, would have been majorly inconvenient if I couldn't get out at some point. But there were no other problem. I know, there is a small window there. God forbid, let's say there was a fire to break the window to get out, but there was no other issues. So, thank God for that. So, again, it's, a lot of things, we can just laugh at. I mean, and it's good to laugh at ourselves also. Things like that. I just, wife and I had a good laugh. It's just, okay, try this, try that, try that. And finally, eventually it worked, but it took a while. So it's just, God had mercy. I had to break the door. I had to replace the door. But whatever, in the end it worked out. Someone asks, no, I could have gone to synagogue and just, I prayed at a certain time. If I wouldn't have prayed at that time, I would have gone to pray somewhere else. It would have worked out. I just, getting up north might have been delayed. But, all that would have worked out. It was just, I like things to work out in a certain way, like we all do. I have a certain time to pray, a certain time, I leave at this time, I take this, I do that. So like, we're creatures of habit. That was the only thing. The Jihadis get credit for mitzvahs they do for conversion. Yeah, they definitely do. If they're not commanded, Rambam says clear, they get credit for what they're doing. And if they don't convert, right? No, I wouldn't say exactly everything, but a lot of things they would get credit for. No question. Yeah. Any other questions? Yeah, I'm going to stop here. I just every Saturday, 2:00 Eastern time, 9:00 Israel time. Anyone has any questions, find me on Facebook at Michael Chaim Kaufman or Beyond Orthodox Conversion Judaism. You can send me an email, rabbichaimkaufman@gmail.com, RBBICHAIMCOFFMAN@gmail.com. Tomorrow, Sunday, 9:00 Eastern time, 4:00 Israel time, Book of Leviticus, chapter 16, and 2:30 Eastern time, 9:30 Israel time, no hide laws. No one interested in any of that. Find it on Facebook. Otherwise, I'm going to sign out, whichever a good beginning of the day, middle of the day, depending on where you are, or end of the day, or middle of the night. And